All right. We have some more breaking news coming in at this hour. The Prime Minister has now instructed the formation of an Afghanistan group with the EAM and the NSA as well. The officials from related ministries will also be part of it. This is a group to constantly and continuously focus on Afghanistan evacuations and ground situations. So this is the latest coming in of the EAM as Jaishankar, the NSA, Ajit Doval, who will be part of this Afghanistan group. And the focus will be on the evacuations and Afghanistan specifically. And these are the officials from related ministries who will also be part of it. This is a group who will constantly monitor and focus on Afghanistan and evacuations. Let me go across to our senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor, who's also joining us over the phone line. Yes, Abhishek, over to you. Please share more of this latest group, Afghanistan group that has been formed.
Well, Richa, given the fluid and evolving situation on the ground in Afghanistan, Prime Minister instructed that under External Affairs Minister as Dr. S. Jaishankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, this group function and continuously monitor the situation as it exists on the ground. It was meant to focus on evacuations first, both of Indian nationals as also Afghans, particularly the minorities there. And that bit will continue, I believe, even as last of the Americans have left. In fact, the group is also charged with coordinating international efforts to make sure that the region remains peaceful. And to that extent, whatever was done, for example, in terms of getting the resolution passed in the United Nations Security Council, which incorporates most of the concerns of India, including on terror, including on evacuations, including on governance and human rights in Afghanistan after the Americans have left. So the group of between the External Affairs Minister and the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is involved in all these activities as per the instructions of the Prime Minister, Richa, and we are told that this group would continue to function even as the basic evacuations have already happened. There might still be some Indians left as other nationalities also have got stuck after Americans gave up control of the Kabul International Airport. So coordination in terms of making sure that the airport is running again and all those who want to come back either because they're Indian citizens or on humanitarian grounds, that is facilitated. Apart from that, as I said, international cooperation in terms of making sure that the Taliban regime really acts responsibly now that they are effectively in power there in Kabul.
In fact, Abhishek, we're also getting an update of this unified headquarters meeting that is all set to happen at 4:30 p.m. in Raj Bhavan as well. It will be chaired by the LG and the meeting is likely to be attended by all the senior officials of the forces as well. This is the first such meeting after the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan, which will also in a way focus on the security scenario that will be discussed post the withdrawal of the US troop even from the airport, and a threat perception from Pakistan and its allies will also be discussed.
The security experts have been talking about a possibility of a spike in terror activities, given the fact that coming back of Taliban has emboldened, radical elements, particularly the terror organizations based out of Pakistan. Because remember, when Taliban were in power for the first time between 1996 and 2000, most of the training of Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists was happening at Khost in Afghanistan, and once released after the IC-814 hijacking, Masood Azhar was indoctrinating and training those terrorists there. So there is a history, institutional memory of that, and as yet there is no evidence, irrespective of whatever Taliban has been saying, that they have disconnected the umbilical link that exists between them, between Islamic State, between Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed. In fact, Indian agencies particularly had got evidence that in the immediate aftermath of Taliban capturing power in Kabul on August 15th, cadres of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed both had trooped down to Kabul and were patrolling the streets in jubilation. So there is all likelihood that there could be a pushback and possible increased focus of terrorist organizations on Kashmir, given the fact that they get emboldened. Remember, it has been Pakistani deep state's dream agenda of getting a strategic depth by capturing a proxy government in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, and I believe they have come very close to that. So there is concern in the Indian security establishment, and that's why this sort of review meeting, apart from that, of course, the security grid, the anti-infiltration grid, all those have been strengthened. I believe the entire security apparatus led by National Security Council and headed by National Security Advisor would obviously very closely looking into it.
Right. In fact, Abhishek, stay with us. We are also joined by Major General Rajan Kochhar on the phone line. Major General Rajan Kochhar, a very important update coming in of the Prime Minister now instructing the formation of this Afghanistan group with the EAM and the NSA in picture as well. And the officials from these related ministries will also be part of this group to constantly focus on Afghanistan evacuation and the ground situation as well.
I think this is a welcome step, because any focused approach to a problem or to a situation is likely to yield better results rather than everything being referred to the Cabinet Committee on Security or a Parliament Committee. So I feel that when you have experts as a part of a group, and I would go a step further. See, they must also explore and induct people who have had tenures in Afghanistan. Something like our defense attaches are there, who spent approximately 3 years in Afghanistan. So the ground realities are better known to such people, as well as the person-to-person contact is there with all our minorities and all this Indian population in Afghanistan. Of course, the mission is there, our base is there, but unfortunately it has been wound up and people have actually come back. So the aim should be to re-establish a facility of ours in Afghanistan, because that will result in a better coordination on ground, and that can only be done after the situation stabilizes to some extent, because the safety of our people is also paramount. So I feel that this focused approach is going to give real-time information, and at the same time will also be able to suggest, recommend certain measures to the government which need to be taken as soon as the situation becomes slightly better.
Right. In fact, according to sources, this group has been meeting constantly over the past few days, and it seized issues pertaining to the safe return of stranded Indians and other minority groups as well. Let me go across to Sriram Cholia, who is also joining us over the phone line. Sriram Cholia, help us understand this importance at this stage and on a day when there has been a final withdrawal of the troops from the Kabul airport outside Afghanistan. How important is it, the formation of this group, this Afghan group that has been announced by the Prime Minister?
Well, we do need to rethink and to put on our thinking caps right now because of the regime change. And Defense Minister Rajnath Singh spoke about the need for a new strategy. And clearly, the old strategy is no longer viable, and we have to look at all the factors in a cold, bluntly and assess what are our interests now. And how do we protect them? And how do we ensure that India's national interests are not compromised? So National Security Advisor and his staff, National Security Council and Ministry of External Affairs, these are quite obviously central players. And I think it's comparable. We have had for a long time China study group within the government. And it was very active during the LAC crisis last year. And this is, of course, also a big crisis with implications for not just our influence in South and Central Asia, but also our direct national security in terms of terrorism and threats of jihadist extremism and all these things. So forming this kind of contact group, which will then reformulate strategy, is I think very important. And I think it should also consult outside government, and there is expertise outside in the think tanks, in the universities, in the media. And indeed, it's a time for India to bounce back. I mean, in the sense we have evacuated, and we don't have a physical presence of our diplomats right now. But ultimately, we would like to establish some contact with the new regime and on mutually agreeable terms with clear conditions and red lines and guarantees. So I think how to engage with these with the Taliban leadership, and also what kind of basis on which India can cooperate. I mean, if Stanixai, if they are claiming that they would welcome India back, then let them give us assurances and on what terms. And I think it's got to be very carefully crafted. There's no room for error because national security is at stake. And I think Narendra Modi government always, when it comes to foreign policy, emphasizes the national security dimension. And in fact, there can be no relations with anyone, be it Taliban or anybody else, if our security is not guaranteed and is taken care of. And in return, of course, we will also give something.
Yes.
So I think it's a very delicately poised moment where we have to be pragmatic, but also principled.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, Sriram Chaulia and Major General Rajan Kocha for joining us here on Republic TV. We'll be closely tracking the developments as far as the Afghan group is concerned, and we'll also be closely tracking all the developments from Afghanistan.